Given the current global climate, with trade wars, stock market volatility, rising tensions in the Middle East, and the threat of a global recession, a lot of people in Singapore are asking, will the Singapore property market crash soon? In order to properly answer that question, I believe we have to discuss each housing type separately because they might have different trends. But please stick until the end, because I'm also going to share two things that might change every prediction that I made in this video. Okay, let's get back to the topic. The first one is the luxury property market, regardless of whether it's resale or new launch. This includes high-end condos, landed houses, and good class bungalow. This segment is often more sensitive to global economic headwinds and investor sentiment. If there's a significant downturn or increased uncertainty, high net worth individuals might become more cautious with large discretionary purchases. Moreover, this segment often sees more speculative investment, which could dry up if the outlook becomes negative. The 60% ABSD for foreigners makes it difficult for luxury property sellers to find suitable buyers. As a result, I anticipate a significant downturn in luxury property prices over the next 2 years, both for resale and new launch. This is unless the government eases the ABSD rules for foreigners. If the ABSD rule for foreigners is lowered or even nullified, I'm sure there will be plenty of keen buyers from overseas. This is especially relevant considering Singapore's reputation as a safe haven for investments during global uncertainty. What about mass market condo? For new launches, I believe new mass market condo prices are likely to experience modest increases this year rather than a significant crash. When I say mass market condos, I'm referring to developments where the 3-bedroom condo price is up to $2.6 million. Here's why. Number one, cost pressure. Even though the current global economy is uncertain, the developer has bought the land at a cost. These cost pressures means that new launch prices have to be at a certain level in order to keep the developer profitable. The second reason is the trade war. Ongoing trade wars will drive up construction, property development, and renovation costs. With many materials sourced from China, developers and subcontractors face potential price hikes as Chinese manufacturers try to recover from trade losses with the United States. The difficulty in finding code-compliant alternatives means these increased costs will likely be passed on to consumers, pushing new launch prices higher. The next reason is the increasing prices in the resale HDB market. We're going to discuss in more details about my prediction on the resale HDB market. But $1 million resale HDB does create a psychological anchor. Why? Because it makes new mass market condos seem comparatively reasonable to some buyers. We should also remember that there is a strong underlying demand for condo, especially from HDB upgraders who want to enter the private property market. This means the demand for mass market condos are still there, although it might soften depending on the economy. All of these factors might result in higher new launch prices for mass market condo. What about resale mass market condo? Okay, this is another story. Interestingly, this market has been dealing with a shortage of sellers in the past 12 months. The reason? Many owners are hesitant to sell because they find it difficult to afford a more expensive new home. This makes sense when you consider that new launch mass market condo prices have jumped around 40% in the past 5 years, while resale condo prices have only seen about a 25% increase in the same time. The higher ABSD rates also come into the picture, especially for those who already own more than one property. People are really resistant to selling because buying another property later would mean paying much steeper ABSD. Even those condo owners who might want to downgrade to a resale HDB are reconsidering, thanks to the new 15-month waiting period for private property sellers under 55 who want to buy a resale HDB flat. Combined, all of these factors result in a low supply in the mass market condo resale market. In summary, the mass market condo resale market most likely will still be stable or even slightly increase in the near future. Now, one might argue that a global recession typically leads to mass layoffs, and some of those affected might own a condo and be forced to sell. While this is true, we are discussing the mass market condo segment, not high-end property. If demand remains high, a slight increase in the already low supply might simply offset the situation. The situation for BTO and SBF is quite straightforward. As their prices are controlled by HDB, I anticipate no major surprises. However, a potential watch out is that renovation costs could rise due to the ongoing global trade war. Now, the resale HDB market is a trickier one to predict. This might be a controversial take, but I actually think a global recession could push resale HDB prices even higher. Here's why. It's still the go-to affordable option for people who can't get a BTO or don't want to wait and can't afford a condo. Plus, those looking to downsize will probably head to the resale HDB market, even with that 15-month wait for those under 55. Basically, demand is likely to stay strong or even get stronger, but at the same time, the number of resale HDBs available might be low. Why? Because the cost of buying a replacement is a big deterrent. If it's way more expensive to get another flat, most people will probably just stay put. Also, even if some HDB owners lose their jobs, HDB has financial assistance measures to help those with HDB loans who are facing financial difficulty. This is different from condo owners with bank mortgages, where the repayment schedules are usually tighter, putting them in a tougher spot to sell if they can't pay their monthly installments. At the end of the day, if there are more buyers than sellers, prices are going to go up. As promised, I will share 2 wild cards that can throw everything upside down and change the whole game. The first wild card is if Trump successfully influences the Fed to lower their interest rates. Because if that's the case, there will be a ripple effect on Singapore too. If it's cheaper to borrow money, then it will create more interest in buying property. This will indirectly push the price even further if there's a greater demand than supply. The second wild card is if Trump is no longer alive. Although he looks very energetic, he is 79 this year. If we Google the life expectancy in the United States, statistically, the average is 77 years old, and the guy eats fast food every day. If Trump is no longer the president, and his vice president takes over, most likely we will get back to some sort of normalcy in the world order. And instead of going into a crash, the property market might soar even further. But hey, what do I know? I'm not an expert, and this is just purely expressing my personal opinion. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video.